On this cost, surprises are always around the corner, and that was certainly one. Thank you, family. Thank you, Sister Melissa, for the rock of support you've been over the years and continue to be. So, when the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. With that opening stanza of Solidarity Forever, I bring you militant union greetings tonight. To our national officers, local and state leaders, activists, family, friends, special guests, frontline, one and all frontline fighters for justice. It's great to be with you as we embark on the next 3 years full of challenges and opportunities. I am deeply, deeply honored to be overwhelmingly reelected by our voting members for a fourth term as national president, along with all the candidates of the APWU Solidarity team. We, and I speak for all of us, greatly appreciate your confidence and support, and we congratulate all of those who have been elected. I ask the outgoing and retiring officers to please stand up. And to all of us, please join with me in thanking them for their dedication to the APW and their many, many contributions, and in wishing them the very best. Each of us being installed tonight should remember we stand on the mighty shoulders of those who've come before us in our noble cause of labor. From miner leader Mother Jones and textile worker hero Crystal Lee Sutton, the real Norma Ray, to the Haymarket martyrs in the fight for the 8-hour day, to the Flint auto worker sit-downers and the San Francisco general strikers, from tobacco worker Lita Miranda Smith in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to the Memphis sanitation workers, standing up for black rights, for workers' rights in the segregated South. From Mo Biller and William Burris and so many other APW leaders, too numerous to mention tonight, to the courageous postal strikers of 1970, and to those who perished, endured the beatings, the jailings, and the firings, persevered and overcame so that the working class and the children of workers could have a better life in this land of plenty. The great labor leader Eugene Debs described our early pioneers as follows: the labor agitator of the early day, held no office, drew no salary, saw no footlights, heard no applause, never saw their name in print, and fills an unknown grave. The labor movement is their monument, and though their name is not inscribed upon it, their soul is in it, and with it marches on forever. This is the well from which we spring, sustained by our own histories, experiences, influences, and our passionate sense of justice. And many of us, as I am, are happy to be here, joined here tonight by family members who do so much to help sustain our good works, and we could not do it without them. We should give all the family members here and who are not here an applause tonight. You've already met my family, so I won't have to introduce them. So, I also reflect tonight on my family's long line of freedom fighters who helped teach me right from wrong, truth from fiction, freedom from oppression, courage instead of cowardice, and the importance of the dignity of all workers. And today, as we witness a most dangerous rise of authoritarianism, I recall my highly decorated World War II veteran father, who after fighting fascism overseas prophetically warned over and over as we were growing up that we must be ever vigilant, for the horrors of Nazi Germany can also happen in the United States. The despicable and dangerous events of January 6th and the events leading up to it and since tragically show that he was right. We are gathered here in the best of times and in the worst of times, to paraphrase the famous author Charles Dickens. On the one hand, we are witnessing rising despotism, bigotry, a massive new wave of voter suppression behind the big lie that the 2020 election was stolen, and increasing white supremacy, race hatred, immigrant bashing, anti-Semitism, and violence, as tragically witnessed in El Paso, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, and unfortunately in more places than those three. Corporations wield far too much power, resulting in staggering income inequality, tax breaks for the rich, a union-busting industry, the enriching of the billionaire class to the tune of $2 trillion during the pandemic alone, while the working class greatly suffered. And without health care as a human right and paid sick leave for all, the tragic pandemic was made far worse. We're facing an aggressive, right-wing Supreme Court that assaults the health and reproductive rights of all women, undermines the country's founding doctrine of separation of church and state, and upholds massive voter suppression. There remains in Congress today 147 representatives who voted to overturn the 2020 election and literally throw away millions of votes, largely from voters and people of color. Rather than sitting in Congress, these crooks should be sitting in prison. And we see increasing natural disasters and rising sea levels that are stark reminders that life on planet Earth is indeed seriously threatened by profiteering of the corporations, particularly the fossil fuel industry. And then we have an unelected Federal Reserve that's busy raising interest rates, making life harder on all workers, rather than the government stepping in and stopping the corporate price gouging that's going on, that's driving inflation, and that's led to obscene profits of the likes of Exxon of $20 billion just in the last quarter. On the other hand, this is not all bad news. I said these are the worst of times, they're also the best of times. On the other hand, we're witnessing an encouraging rise in worker militancy as workers have drawn the important lessons from the pandemic, that it is indeed Main Street versus Wall Street and labor versus capital. Workers have gained a greater self-respect that we deserve better, and we're not going to be called essential one day and expendable another day. It was us who kept the country running, including hundreds of thousands of postal workers who kept the country running, the people connected, clothed, fed, housed for, and cared for, and connected. Reminiscent of the 1970 Great Postal Strike, we see rising militant strikes and contract struggles. And by the way, are there any strikers in the room from 1970 tonight? If you are, please stand up. Let's give them a standing ovation. And everybody who was there. And in these militant strikes and contract struggles, by the way, that are often in opposition to their own leaders' hesitations. We see it with John Deere, Nabisco workers, mine workers, who are now in the 500th and the 80th day and some odd days of a bitter strike in Alabama. We see it with education workers, with railroad workers, and powerful organizing campaigns, union organizing campaigns that have burst forth among workers at Starbucks, Delta Airlines, and Amazon. Popular support for unions is at an 80-year high, giving us the opportunity, to rebuild from a dismal 6% union organization of the private sector workforce. Behind movements calling for $15 an hour living wage, or at least the beginning of a living wage in a union, state after state has raised minimum wages closer to living wages, contrary to the paltry federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour inflicted on the working class by both political parties. in the just concluded midterms. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who was responsible for putting the murderers of George Floyd behind bars, prevailed against a vicious white supremacist backlash and the victory of John Fetterman in the Pennsylvania Senate race shows the importance of sticking with pro-working class positions such as Medicare for all and living wages for all. Some positive ballot initiatives passed, including incorporating workers' rights into the Illinois state constitution. And we continue to be inspired by Stacey Abrams and the crucial fight to preserve and expand voting rights, especially in the Deep South. And we have much to celebrate in the life of our own union as well. Let me share a quick look back. I know everybody, we got to get to the food, so it'll be a quick look. And a little bit of a look forward as we take office tonight. Working, organizing, mobilizing together with all of you, we are marching forward, building an activist, winning union. Think of our collective accomplishments just this year. Ratification of a solid new contract by a 94% yes vote. Record COLA increases, historic and urgently needed postal reform, a successful Building Union Power campaign, and our strong union democracy reflected in our national convention and our national union election. Postal workers proudly and successfully delivered democracy, moving a record number of mail ballots in the 2020 election. In the 2015 negotiations, we stopped the downward spiral of concessionary bargaining and restored more career jobs. We protected jobs in retail services in the victorious Stop Staples battle, which our retirees were so crucial of. Thank you all, retirees. And we built a grand alliance to save our public post office. We've converted over 100,000 postal support employees, non-career employees to career, rose to the safety challenges of the terrible pandemic, aggressively enforced our union contracts, campaigned for expanded postal services, including postal banking, encouraged new and young workers to step up, strengthened the retirees department, improved cooperation among the 4 postal unions, practiced solidarity with other unions and workers, and built an impressive fight-back campaign in the critical fight against the Trump administration's postal privatization plans. But we can never rest on our laurels. There will always be new challenges and ways to do better, ways to improve. And as former President Mo Biller always proclaimed, and many of you have heard it before, the struggle continues, and so it does. So some highlights of our coming work, very quickly. Some of it will include this very quick 12-point plan. One, fight for democracy and democratic rights. When Hitler and the Nazi fascists took power in Germany, one of their early actions was to ban unions and crush the workers' movement. 2, in this context, fight to protect and expand voting rights against this new wave of voter suppression. Voting should be made as accessible as possible, and vote by mail is a key ingredient. 3, work together, and I mean together at all levels of the union, to address the ever-increasing hostile work environments. No worker should ever face harassment and discrimination at work, period. 4, continue to organize the unorganized, both inside the post office and beyond. Fight to bring up the living standards of all workers throughout our industry, most importantly at Amazon. 5, build new union leadership education programs. 6, assist injured workers through better training of local and state officers with our new program of OWCP resource assistance. 7, fight for all legislation that uplifts workers and the 99%. The history of the labor and women's and civil rights movement shows that movements move Congress and create legislative victories, not the other way around. Never forget our experience in 2008, when the Democratic Party controlled all 3 branches of government. But without the powerful movement in the streets, what happened? The workers reaped very few, if any, benefits. 8, win a new electric postal fleet and charging stations for the public, doing our part doing our part for a clean energy future. 9, continue the crucial struggle to expand postal services, especially in the field of financial services. 10, protect jobs and service as we face these new management plans of network realignment. 11, building grassroots power as we prepare for and engage in the next round of collective bargaining. Believe it or not, it's not too far off. And last, the fight against postal privatization will remain paramount, no matter who sits in the White House. Wall Street is still Wall Street, and they want our national treasure in their greedy hands. Our jobs, our union, and the people's democratic right to public postal services enshrined in the Constitution depend on our determination and our success and our unity with the people of the country. But these goals and more will take immense struggle to accomplish, and you're all used to struggle. And as the great freedom fighter Frederick Douglass so eloquently said, quote, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean with the mighty roar of its many waters. And power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will." End of quote. So I challenge all of us to find the ways to inspire and encourage members to become more involved in our union, to attend union meetings, to serve on union committees, to stand up for safe jobs, stand up with each other on the workroom floor, sign up to non-members, wear union gear with pride, run for union office, welcome the involvement of young workers, lobby politicians, fight for postal banking, stand in solidarity with all workers, and speak up and defend the public postal service, and regardless of our political persuasions, stand for unity in our common struggle for a better life. We, the people, are the makers of history. Dolores Huerta, famed farm worker leader, graced our 2018 National Convention. She's now 92 years young, and she challenges working folks to walk the street with us into history. So as we embark on these coming 3 years, let's leave this installation celebration more determined, more inspired, and be encouraged by the words of Tommy Douglas, the beloved Canadian leader and founder of their Labour Party. And by the way, we sure need one here. But the founder of their Labour Party, and when he said, "Courage, my friends, 'tis not too late to build a better world." And so from our workplaces to the streets, from our neighborhoods to the halls of Congress, it's time to ever more educate, organize, mobilize, and galvanize. We cannot solely elect, litigate, hope, or grieve our way out of these difficult and dangerous times. We will have to fight our way forward with a movement of millions. We must organize the unorganized and save our unions. We must carry out the crusade, continue to carry out the crusade to save the public postal service and our collective bargaining rights, and to take on Wall Street power with what? More workers' power. Let's continue to stand up and fight back, hand in hand with each other, all crafts, active, retiree, auxiliary, postal and other unions, community allies, and the people who support the public postal service and trust postal workers. So I say, let's see what you say. Are you ready to rock and roll? All right. So let's ensure that voting rights for all and our hard-fought, cherished democratic rights will not die on our watch. Let's fight for universal vote by mail. Let's fight for Election Day to be a paid holiday. Let's fight to end the undemocratic Senate filibuster. And let's meet the rising fascist tide that should have everybody in this room deeply disturbed and concerned. Meet that tide with rising working class unity around our common interests, our common goals for a better life, for in our unity lies our strength. Family, sisters, brothers, siblings, comrades, and friends, Our election is over. The members have spoken. Now, principled unity is key as we battle corporate greed, Wall Street privatizers, and a perilous political environment, and while we battle anyone in management from top to bottom who vamps on postal workers and chooses to undermine the public postal service. Let's heed the call of the final verse of our labor anthem, Solidarity Forever. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. And in the words of the great freedom song, lift every voice and sing, let us march on till victory is won. Carry on, APWU family and friends, solidarity forever.